If you've ever asked yourself, what can I grow to make money? This video is for you. By the end of this video, you're gonna know the top 20 most profitable crops to grow on small acreage to make money. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notified every time I post a new video about making money from your backyard. I'm Zach Buckle, and I'm a year-round veggie farmer in Cody, Wyoming. And last year, my farm sold $85,000 of vegetables produced from this half-acre plot of land, growing the exact crops I'm going to go over today. All right, arugula, like this 70-foot bed you see here, is a great profitable crop to grow for 5 reasons. It grows really quick. It's seed to maturity in 21 days, so you can grow multiple crops a year. It's very popular with restaurants, and they'll pay up to $8 to $10 a pound for it, and it's popular at the market. It grows a really high yield per square foot, so every foot of this bed will probably produce about 1 pound over 2 cuts, and it's also very easy to grow. All you got to do is push seed 6 rows on a 30-inch bed, germinate them, and possibly cover with insect netting in the summer to keep the flea beetles off, and you've got a really profitable crop. Basil is another super highly profitable crop on this list, and the reason is it's super popular. Everybody buys basil to make pesto, put in tomato salads, do all sorts of stuff with it. Restaurants love it. It's super high yielding. You get many pounds from one 50-foot bed, and it's super high value. You could sell it for a minimum of $16 a pound. The grocery store sells it for $3 per ounce. So it's super profitable if you find the right market. And it's relatively easy to grow. All you got to do is start the plant early in the spring, transplant it at the right time, a week or 2 after your last frost, and it's off to the races and pumping out basil for you throughout the summer into the fall. Beets are another highly profitable crop because they're really easy to grow. You can either throw a seed in the ground and get a beet 50 days later, or you could start one in your nursery and grow it for a month and then transplant it and get it 2 or 3 weeks later. So they grow really fast, and they're relatively high value. You can sell a bunch of beets for $3 to $4 each, and you can easily grow multiple crops per season with beets. You could either grow them as a transplant or seed them directly. Cabbage is another one of my all-time favorite profitable crops because if you grow the variety Tiara, which is a very special variety that grows well in really dense planting like this, you get a really nice 1 to 2 pound head, and you can fit 180 heads on a 50-foot bed. So it's super high yield per square foot. It's super popular. Everybody buys cabbage, and if you sell one of those heads of cabbage for $3 each, that's pretty good money on a 50-foot bed, and it grows relatively fast when you grow it as a transplant. These cabbages will produce 40 to 50 days later after we transplant them in the ground. So super easy to grow. You can store them for 3 months afterwards, and they're just an easy sell. So carrots are one of my all-time favorite high profit crops because you can grow a truckload of them on a per square foot basis. Each square foot here will produce at least 1 pound of carrots. They're super popular. Everybody likes carrots at all times of year, and they get even more popular later into the winter and the fall when they get sweeter. And they're relatively high value at a farmer's market. You could sell them at $3 to $4 per bunch at all times of year. So once you figure out how to get them consistently germinated in your growing beds, that's pretty much the hardest part. The rest of it is just keeping them deeply irrigated so they grow really deep and nice big roots, and that's about it. And you got a really profitable crop in any context. Cilantro, like this bed here, is a great profitable crop because it's super fast. It matures in about 40 days, seed to harvest. And you could also grow it as a transplant to shorten that time in the ground even more. It's super popular. People are always putting cilantro in their salads, in their salsas, and it's very popular in the summer. A lot of restaurants like it, and it's very high yielding per square foot. If you get one bed like this to produce cilantro that's this tall, you can be getting anywhere from 300 to 600 bunches per crop. So that's in 60 days, you're getting 300 to 600 bunches. Depends on how well the cilantro is performing in the weather. And it's pretty easy to grow. You just have to seed it all the time to make sure you have fresh cilantro because it usually does go to seed pretty fast. But once you get that stuff figured out, it's a great profitable crop. Cucumbers are potentially the most profitable crop on this list because you can get truckloads of yield per square foot if you grow them right. And especially if you grow them vertically up a string or use a lower and lean method inside of greenhouse. They're super popular. Everybody's always buying cucumbers in the summertime for salads, pickles, the whole 9 yards. And they're relatively easy to grow as long as you don't have too much humidity. You shouldn't have too much powdery mildew issues, and they just keep producing for you all season. So as long as you plant them really well in a few weeks after your first frost, they should keep producing for you the whole summer. Dill is another great profitable crop for about the same reasons as cilantro. It grows incredibly fast. It's about 40 days from seed to harvest, and it grows great with cilantro if you don't have enough room to fill a whole bed with one crop. You can plant dill and cilantro next to each other, and that works pretty well. But it's super popular, so people love putting it in their pickles in the summertime. So if you got cucumbers, it's a great combo. Very popular with chefs, and again, super high value, $2 to $3 per bunch, and you should be able to get a couple hundred bunches on a bed of this size. So it's super high productive per square foot, and you just need to keep seeding it throughout the whole season to get constant flow, but it's a highly profitable crop. Broccoli is one of my favorite profitable crops because it's super easy to sell. Everybody likes to eat broccoli, and you can get a pretty good price for it at a farmer's market. We sell ours for $5 a pound. You could sell it for $4, but a bed like this, you could produce anywhere from 100 to 150 pounds of broccoli throughout your entire growing season, because once you cut that central head, you get that really nice 1 to 2 pound head. It produces shoots for you all season, and they taste delicious. And you could sell the leaves after you're done selling the broccoli heads. So it's got a lot of value from one planting, and it's relatively easy to sell, high yield per square foot. You really can't go wrong with broccoli once you figure out how to deal with the cabbage moths. So you just need to spray BT on it or put an insect netting to prevent the cabbage moths. Garlic is becoming one of my favorite high profit crops because it has the potential to make more money per crop than most of the other crops I'm going to talk about today at a time where you can't plant anything else. So the beautiful thing about garlic is you can plant it at 7-inch grid spacing and fit like 360 heads on a 50-foot bed, sell each one of those heads for $3 each, and you're looking at almost $1,000 from one crop. And you can plant these in October and then harvest them in July. By July, you have plenty of time to grow a second crop in that same bed. So that one bed can produce up to $1,400, even $1,600 in a simple 4-month season like mine in Wyoming. So super high profit crop. These things never go bad. Everybody's gonna pay $3 a head for these because the flavor of this garlic is out of this world. The only drawback is you have to make sure you save 10% or 20% of your seed every year, so you can't sell the entire crop. But once you figure that out, it's a really good one, and it's easy to grow. All you gotta do is break these up and plant the cloves, and you're good to go. So kale might not be the most popular with every single customer, but a lot of people do really like it, and it is great profit crop because one plant can produce 10 bunches throughout your season. It really just depends on how long you're able to keep the plant growing, because every time you harvest these outer stalks, the central head just keeps growing, and it produces really deep into the winter and cold and just gets sweeter and more delicious. So each one of these bunches you could easily sell for $3 each at a farmer's market, and restaurants you could sell them for $2 a bunch. You know, that price just depends on your area, but one plant can produce many bunches over the entire growing season, and it grows relatively fast. It's super easy to grow, even easier than broccoli. You just throw a seed in a pot, grow it for about a month, transplant it at the right time or multiple times throughout your season, and you've got a multiple productive crop that is gonna bring you revenue every week of the growing season. So if you can get this to grow for you and produce all season long, you're gonna make a lot of money. Lettuce mix from specifically Salanova lettuce or any good cut and come again variety is going to provide truckloads of lettuce for you all throughout the year. It is a little bit tricky to grow. There's a lot of fertility sensitivities with lettuce, and it doesn't necessarily like deep cold. But once you get that figured out and you've got a good market for it, everybody buys lettuce. Everybody puts lettuce on their sandwiches, makes salads with all of your other stuff that you're selling at your market, and it's pretty easy to harvest. The trick is just getting the soil right and making sure you don't have any mold issues and stuff like that. But one bed like this can produce 80 pounds in about 45 to 60 days. That is a lot of lettuce in a very short time period. So you could easily have multiple crops growing throughout your entire farm and have it all season long. And if this is making sense, hit that like button below and comment which crop you're gonna try in your backyard. And once you master growing lettuce for salad mix, you could easily grow lettuce for lettuce heads, which is just about as profitable. You grow them a little bit wider spacing, like a 10-inch grid spacing on a bed like this, and you've got 180 lettuce heads ready in about 45 days that you could sell for $3 each. So it's a really quick crop. It is relatively easy to sell for all of the same reasons. Salad mix is easy to sell, and all you got to do is master the art of growing lettuce and get your soil right, and you've got a really great profitable crop that can grow throughout your entire growing season, maybe even through your winter. So scallions or green onions, like this 100-foot row you see behind me here, are another great profitable crop because you can grow truckloads of bunches on a 50-foot bed. You should be able to produce somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 to 400 bunches of green onions from one planting on a 50-foot bed. And everybody likes green onions because they put it in salads. They're great grilled. They're pretty popular with restaurants, and you could sell one bunch at the market for at least $3 each, maybe $2. And it's relatively quick. If you grow them from seed in the ground directly, you're looking at about 70 days seed to harvest. If you grow them as a transplant in a paper pot kind of situation, you're looking at about 40 days. So it's just pumping out crops for you throughout the entire growing season, and they're super cold hardy. We're gonna be harvesting these into December in my really cold Wyoming climate because they can take really deep cold. So pea shoots like the ones you see right here are a great profitable crop because you don't even necessarily need a farm with land to grow these. You could grow these in your grow lights in your house if you wanted to. We grow them in our nursery, but each flat of pea shoots that we produce on the farm produces anywhere from $25 to $32 per flat, and it costs us about $1 to produce that. So super profitable, very popular with high-end restaurants. You could sell them for $1 per ounce, and you can sell them in 5-ounce bags at the market for $5, and people love to put them on sandwiches, wraps, all sorts of stuff. So they're relatively popular, very easy to grow, very profitable, and about the most high yield per square foot you could possibly ask for. Each flat will produce up to 2 pounds of pea shoots from one planting. So parsley is another bomb-proof profitable herb to grow. It's just a lot slower than cilantro and dill because it takes a good 80 days from transplant to produce into a bed that's as lush as what you see here. But once it's this thick, every 10 feet or so, you're gonna get about 90 bunches of parsley that you could sell for $3 each, retail at a farmer's market, or $2 each to restaurants, and make a ton of money. This one bed will probably bring us in over $1,200 since we planted it in the early spring. So it's super profitable. It also can take a lot of cold, and it produces all season for you. One plant will produce 2 or 3 bunches throughout your season. It just takes a little bit of time for it to get established, but once it's established, it's an absolute profit powerhouse. So Hakurei salad turnips like these are a great profitable crop once you can figure out how to manage the bugs. They produce truckloads of turnips per square foot, and they are really quick. They're 38 days to maturity. So you throw the seed in the ground, get it germinated, and 38 days later, you got a truckload of turnips just like these that taste like apples. They're super sweet. They're unbelievable once you train people to like them. And you could sell these to restaurants for $5 a pound because they're very light, or you could sell them retail for $3 a bunch, and bunches will be about 8 ounces or something. They're very light and delicious, and the greens are edible. The only challenge with these guys is getting them to germinate, because they don't like to germinate in hot soil, and then you got to put an insect netting over them to prevent the root maggots from entering, because root maggots really love these things, and the flea beetles for eating them. But once you get that figured out, highly profitable. One bed on a 50-foot bed will produce at least 100 bunches, maybe 150, depending on how densely you seed. And you can cut the greens off and store these in your fridge for 3 months in a bag, and they're still gonna be delicious. They're a great storage crop. So spinach is basically our winter bank account. We have 7 50-foot beds of spinach growing right now to harvest all through our winter, because it just makes us lots and lots of money throughout the winter, because it can take the deepest cold out of any of the vegetables we've talked about today. We've had spinach survive -20 Fahrenheit in unheated greenhouses with just row cover protecting it, and it is so sweet and delicious in the wintertime. People get in line just to buy our spinach starting in around December. So it's super high yield. One bed foot is at least a pound for the first cut. Second cut, you're probably looking at almost 2 pounds. So you're looking at between 40 and 60 pounds on per 50-foot bed of spinach throughout your winter. And you can easily grow it in the spring. Summer is a little tricky, but it's worth $8 to $10 a pound. People love it at the market in 8-ounce bags for $5. Sometimes restaurants will buy it, and it's relatively easy to grow once you know that the seeds don't like to germinate in hot soil. So you have to germinate them in cold soil or cold water or a germination chamber or something. Once you get that figured out, 4 rows on a 30-inch bed is pretty standard for highly productive spinach, and you're gonna get 2 to 3 cuts on one bed and just make a lot of money at a time when you're probably not making much money. Radishes can make a terrible season into a halfway decent season halfway through the season, because they grow seed to maturity in 21 days. They produce 150 bunches on a 50-foot bed, and you could sell these for $3 each at a market, no problem. Put them in a veggie box. Restaurants love them. You could sell them for $5 a pound, and you could just keep pumping out radishes 10 times a season and keep making money from them. And the beautiful thing is, you could take the greens off right at the base here, store the root for 3 months into your winter, and you got a great storage crop. I can't grow enough radishes. We are constantly trying to grow more of them throughout the farm. And basically all you got to do, sow them 4 rows on a 30-inch bed with a push seeder, and use a fairly big seed roller like an LJ24 with a jang, and you've got a great profitable crop that you can grow many times throughout your season and just keep producing multiple crops on your beds. Radishes are one of my favorites. So summer squash can be a really high profit crop if you've got the right market for it and the right climate. For us, it's worth about $4 a pound, and one 50-foot bed is bringing us between 20 and 30 pounds a week starting around late July and produces all the way into October. So that's a highly profitable crop that's producing at least $800 on one 50-foot bed. The key is to grow a really nice medley of 3 different varieties. So you got a yellow zucchini, a green zucchini, and a patty pan. Mix those together, and it's worth a lot more to people at the market because it just looks gorgeous. It can be popular with restaurants, and the main benefit is you basically grow it as a transplant or throw a seed in the ground, and once it's mature, it just keeps producing for you as long as you're harvesting it every day or every other day, and you've got a really great high profit summer crop. And for our 21st bonus crop, we have tomatoes. Tomatoes are an incredibly profitable crop if you can master growing them. They're very tough to grow as a beginner in this fashion, but if you can grow them successfully vertically up a string or using a lower end lean method and keep them producing all the way from early July into your fall, they are insanely profitable in most areas. In my area, they're worth $5 a pound because tomatoes are very scarce. In your area, they might not be worth that much, but if you keep them producing for a long enough period, they'll still make really great money on a 50-foot bed. Obviously, tomatoes are popular. They're probably one of the most popular things on this list. They are challenging to grow. There's a lot of disease issues, a lot of fertility issues that you have to be mindful of throughout the entire growth cycle. They're basically stressful from the time you sow the seed all the way up until the time you pull the plants out of the ground. But if you can manage that stress and keep them growing, they are going to produce for you all summer and bring in customers to buy all of the other salad greens that you have, because that's why people come to the farmer's market, is to buy tomatoes. So cherries, slicers, paste tomatoes, it doesn't matter. Any tomato that you're able to bring consistently to the market, it's going to be popular. It's going to be popular with restaurants. It is the easiest thing to sell on this list. It's just mastering the art of growing tomatoes, which is a lot easier said than done. If you want to turn a 1/4 acre into a profitable backyard farm growing the 21 crops that we mentioned today, grab my free backyard farm launch pad at the link in the description below. It includes my high profit crop list with all of the average yields and revenue you're going to get for a certain square footage. It includes my free annual planting schedule, which helps you keep your beds planted throughout your entire growing season with multiple crops per bed. And it includes a roadmap to turn a 1/4 acre into $20,000 a year in revenue for beginners and get that result in your first year. So grab that at the link in the description below. If you have a 1/4 acre backyard that you want to turn into a farm but don't know where to start, watch this video where I break down exactly what I mean by $20,000 your first year growing on a 1/4 acre, step by step, and how each bed will look like for you.